welcome you to our informational video about HIPAA compliance. HIPAA compliance may not be the first thing people think of when you think of cybersecurity attacks, but it is the cornerstone of cybersecurity in the medical practice field. Before we get into the logistics about how to comply with HIPAA, we first want to explain what exactly is HIPAA and what does it do.
What is HIPAA? HIPAA stands for the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996.
Have you ever gone to the doctor and filled out mountains of paperwork? You probably wondered, what is this for? Who can see this? And where is all this information stored? That is what HIPAA deals with. But why is it important for these companies to be HIPAA compliant? HIPAA compliance means that the companies are following all of the federal regulations and abiding by all of the rules when it comes to your medical records. But the real question is, why is this so important? Prior to HIPAA's establishment in 1996, there were no rules and regulations put in place to prevent the spread unlawfully of medical records. But in recent years, we have seen a spike in the number of people who are being found guilty against HIPAA compliance regulations. Most notably, most recently, a New Jersey-based psychologist has been accused of failing to prevent patient mental health diagnoses and treatment details from being released. We see new violations of HIPAA compliance happening frequently. According to Calptic Security, over 137 million records have been affected since 2015. This shows that we drastically need to improve security when it comes to medical records. It is estimated that over 10,000 patient medical records were compromised during this breach. During the time of the attack, the hackers would not allow medical personnel to access live records of the patients. Fortunately, the company was HIPAA compliant and had backups of all of their medical information stored on a server. Had these safeguards not been put in place by their technology department, the ramifications could have been endless. Hospital personnel could have lost their license, the hospital could have come under lawsuit, and unfortunately, there is even the possibility that patients could have died had there not been access to the backups of the medical records. Now that you understand what HIPAA is, what HIPAA compliance is, and why it's so important to all of us, some of my colleagues are going to explain how to improve cybersecurity in regards to HIPAA. We are going to focus on three major aspects: policy, technical, and educational. These three aspects combined can create a very safe network for our HIPAA records.
I'll be talking about the technical recommendations to avoid cybersecurity attacks. One of them will be have experts be involved in any related cybersecurity attacks into the company by implementing measures for detecting cyber attacks, whether it is from internal or external resources. In addition, we will recommend that employers to be sure encrypt their servers using a HIPAA compliant encryption software. Secondly, use activity logs and audit controls to show who has access to the data, who made changes to the data, and who attempted to gain access. Finally, we can have computers, automatically log off once they're not being used, so that no one can go into that person's computer and to gain access, obviously. So those were the three technical recommendations that companies should follow in order to avoid cybersecurity attacks. But I'll be showing you one of the most known ways to avoid cybersecurity attacks, which is the multi-factor authentication, which is like a method to confirm the user claim identity through a computer, either by sending you a text, a push button, or through call.
So there are several policies that companies can implement to help protect and keep private the health information of patients. One policy is to have business associates such as IT contractors, cloud service providers sign a contract or an agreement stating what protected health information of patients they can access and cannot access, as well as what they should do with the information. Additionally, implementing a policy that prohibits employees from accessing private health information on their mobile device is extremely important, as these devices can easily be lost, stolen, and resold, potentially giving unauthorized people access to sensitive information. Also, having a sanctions policy for employees who are consistently failing to comply to rules and regulations is important, as well as a risk management policy to determine and analyze any potential risks before they occur. And with that comes setting up a plan to control and manage such risks. Overall, these policies are designed to minimize the risk of a breach. Having such safeguards in place will help ensure that organizations are taking the best possible steps to not only protect the privacy of their patients, but also the integrity of their organization.
It's important for companies to be educated about the rules and regulations of HIPAA so that their patients' rights are not violated. So there's a HIPAA for Professionals website. If you actually Google that, there's 3 policies that come up: the privacy rule, the security rule, and the enforcement rule, which is actually contrary to its description of providing standards for the enforcement of all the administrative simplification rules, as nothing about it is actually simple. Everyone goes through standardized HIPAA training in healthcare professions dealing with personal identifiers and/or information. Companies are responsible to ensure the jargon can be understood and be personally relatable so that measures can be implemented by healthcare professionals to not violate the rights of their patients. The provisions enacted are extremely lengthy and they lose the reader. The companies leading to these transgressions which are violating HIPAA. So it's important for employees to follow their employer's directions and procedures in regards to HIPAA. They need to utilize encryptions for file access and storage. There should be some dual authenticated logins requiring maybe a phone access or another mobile device in order to get into, I guess, the electronically personalized or professional healthcare information, the EPIHs. And they should have simplified jargon and non-disclosure agreements. They should increase the accessibility of this info to their patients and perform risk assessment and enact these preventative measures accordingly. So there's a HIPAA risk assessment tool that they have available on their website, and it's important not only to enact that tool, but to just ubiquitously understand the risk of electronically protected healthcare information. They can be lost, they can be stolen, malware can come about the device through unsecured networks or websites visited. Device sharing can also lead to people seeing confidential information. There was a case of $2.5 million in a lawsuit against a stolen laptop of a healthcare professional that had the confidential information of, 1,391 different accounts. And HIPAA for patients, you can also, using any search engine, search up those terms and click the link from hhs.gov, and it details everything a patient needs to know about their rights in HIPAA. But they can also take personal security measures such as setting strong passwords, also encrypting their files and their remote devices, requiring a unique user ID and having an automatic logout, having an remote wipe enabled. Lock the device and keep the device with you. Do not let anyone use your device, like no screen sharing, no device sharing. Use a screen shield, not just one that protects the front coat, but also hides the view site of what you're doing on your device from others. Register the device, install a firewall for your device, use a secure Wi-Fi network, and research the mobile apps being used on your phone or other device.
We hope that you found this video both instructional and informational. And we also hope that you will do your part to comply with HIPAA's guidelines and do your best to prevent cybersecurity attacks from happening in the future.